It's my pleasure to be here in Suffolk. Always nice here in Tidewater. As I can see, we have some Washington Admirals here. Admiral Ty is here, Admiral Branch is here, and Admiral Train is here, proving once again that the snow can never be too deep, the cold never too gold, the ice never too black, to flee Washington and come join us down here at the fleet. So thank you for joining us, appreciate that. I also want to thank Mayor Johnson today. I'm sorry I didn't get to meet you before. And Mayor Johnson, thank you so much for joining us here today. The Navy and our joint partners here in this facility have enjoyed an excellent relationship with the city of Suffolk, and we are happy to be part of the high-tech development that's going on out here. More importantly, your presence is another example of the Navy's rich history of civilian-military partnership here in this region. This partnership has made quite a difference for the nation over the centuries. If you don't know, Hampton Roads is an area of great beginnings. The victory at Yorktown, leading us out of the Revolutionary War and the establishment of this great republic, of course. The Battle of the Monitor and Merrimack, which ushered in the brief but evolutionary ironclad age. The launching of the Great White Fleet from Hampton Roads some 107 years ago on their 14-month voyage around the world. And the first 10th Fleet, which was here in Hampton Roads as well, the ASW Fleet, that was so important to winning the Battle of the Atlantic in World War II. Then, as now, the nation called upon the Navy to sail over the horizon to distant seas and shores in order to reinforce our diplomatic efforts, to engage our allies, to deter our adversaries, and to conduct prompt and sustained combat operations at sea. As borne out in World War I, in World War II, and in numerous conflicts before and after throughout our history. Just recently, I told a large audience, I have one responsibility, to make the fleet ready to fight and win, both today and in the future. And this is what I want ID forces and the warriors that make up the ID4 command to focus on, making the fleet ready to fight and win. I say it again because it bears deliberation. This is our obligation. After all, it is codified in law. I mentioned it, to conduct prompt and sustained combat operations at sea. And as warfighting has evolved over the years, so too must, and we do, the United States Navy as well. Today, the establishment of ID4 represents the next evolution in the Navy's effort to keep the fleet ready to fight and win. Think about it. At the dawn of the 20th century, a Navy's operational reach was limited by the range of its coal supply lines, the ability for colliers, coal ships, to resupply, then reload battleships and their escorts. And their tactical reach was governed by the range of the main battery of those battleships and the ability of its gunnery officers to spot the fall of shot, the height of eye, and the speed and precision of the gunnery fires themselves was an important factor. Now, more than 100 years later, our Navy's operational reach is vastly greater. Nuclear-powered aircraft carriers and their strike aircraft, submarines with ballistic and cruise missiles, long-endurance unmanned aircraft, sensors spanning the entire electromagnetic spectrum, and systems and warriors capable of levying effects across the physical and information and cyberspace domains. Whether from a desk in a building at Fort Meade, the blue-lit tactical spaces of our ships operating forward, or a sailor, a SEAL, in the dirt with a thumb drive on a mission forward, our Navy and our information dominance forces now deliver effects across the globe, as always, through their operational and tactical actions to deliver fires and effects. But as much as our Navy has changed, adapted, and advanced, so too have our adversaries and potential adversaries. A new hybrid way of warfare has emerged, one that requires us to prepare the fleet to operate in denied or contested environments of all kinds, while still delivering the capabilities and effects the nation demands. What does this mean for Navy ID4 and the Navy Information Dominance Corps? The evolving nature of warfighting has not gone unnoticed by our fleet operators known as information professionals. We all are charged with maintaining the fleet's advantages to make us ready to fight and win. That's why we've initiated this organization of the information communities and capabilities that Rear Admiral Kohler mentioned. And that's why ID4 has been established here in Hampton Roads with the fleet, to bond the ID forces and the fleet forces inextricably closer than ever before. Naval commanders have always demanded the most exquisite, most precise, and most current information. Admiral Train is smiling, knowing what a burden that is. On their adversary, his intentions, his movements, the supply lines, the conditions of readiness, and on the environment, weather, and the physical geography. A century ago, this information was imperative in screening one's own force and maneuvering to seize the advantage. At the same time, we began exploiting the ability to deny our adversaries the same information and opportunity. This asymmetric advantage powered our Navy to perhaps the single greatest naval victory in World War II at Midway. I recognize for many of you this is Cryptology 101, but if you'll allow me, it's one of my favorite illustrations. Facing a superior foe and still reeling from Pearl Harbor, our fleet needed to turn back the advancing Japanese Navy, a Navy that hadn't suffered a defeat in more than 50 years. The two navies were engaged in similar efforts to bring the other to battle at an advantageous time and place to achieve victory at sea. To gain his advantage, Admiral Nimitz leveraged his radio intelligence organization, the OP-20G, led by Commander Joe Rochefort. To begin with, these cryptologists, codebreakers, produced the necessary information on the Japanese order of battle, their timetable, and their rough plan of attack. But more importantly, they did not know exactly where it would take place. Commander Rochefort's team believed they had discerned the next Japanese targets at Midway, Dutch Harbor, and Port Moresby, of course, but they needed to affirm their hypothesis. What was the code AF, Alpha Foxtrot? You know the story. To be absolutely certain that the Japanese code AF indicated Midway, Commander Rochefort recommended, and Admiral Nimitz directed, the transmission of a cable about a water shortage at Midway in the clear, a signal sent in the clear. Shortly thereafter, Japanese signals reflected that AF was short on water, confirming, indeed, the hypothesis. Midway was AF. Think about it. Admiral Nimitz, at Commander Rochefort's recommendation, leveraged the electromagnetic spectrum and the information domain in many ways, both discerning the enemy's attack plans and also directing, ultimately, radio silence by his own carriers and aircraft to hide their movements, positioning to the defense of Midway, denying the adversary the same opportunistic advantage. Good fortune and tactical execution certainly played a role, but our information advantage enabled the fleet commander to position his forces in the right place at the right time and turn the tide in the Pacific in World War II. This strategic outcome was enabled because of the operational reach and the imagination and the capabilities inherent in information dominance. Over the decades, naval warfare has evolved and the size of ships and their navies has varied, but the demands for understanding the environment, the adversary, the ability to communicate, they have never waned. In fact, the demands have only grown as warfighting has evolved, especially with the emergence of the cyberspace domain. Our fleet and our tactical commanders must have information dominance capabilities to fight and win, especially in a contested battle space. And that's what type commands have always provided, the type or platform capabilities to the fleet. And these make up the tactical and operational effects, the capabilities, as Admiral Kohler mentioned, necessary to fight and win. First with ship types, whether destroyers, amphibs, or service ships, then in World War II with type commanders to organize submarines and aircraft, most recently with NECC, just in this 21st century, and now information dominance capabilities. ID4, rooted here with the fleet, has the same charter as other type commands. From weather and oceanography to intelligence, from information warfare to effects in the cyberspace domain, they are to provide the technical, procedural, and technical capabilities needed for the fleet. Here now, at the dawn of the 21st century, our operational reach is not just limited to the physical domain. Our ship's tactical reach isn't limited by the height of eye anymore. Our information dominance warriors have extended the reach of our fleet once again. We have a new advantage, and I'm grateful that we have a cadre of warriors and capabilities here at ID4 to leverage that advantage. I can think of no better officer to meet this challenge than Admiral Matt Kohler, and I know the team of warriors I see out there before me this morning and across the United States, Fort Meade and a variety of other places are up to the task at hand. As I said earlier, great things, naval things in particular, have their beginnings here in Hampton Roads. A century ago, with the sailing of the Great White Fleet, and now today with Navy ID forces as just the latest example. This is a new beginning in Hampton Roads. I look forward to moving out together. Thank you, all of you here at ID Forces, for what you've put in place to get this command off the ground. I look forward to working with you together to make the fleet ready to fight and win. Thank you. Chief of Staff.